So can we watch this live on the internet?
No, not yet.
Watch it tomorrow.
Kind of like watching the news.
Watch it Monday.
No, like watching the news.
To discuss. We'll call the meeting to order at 3 o'clock and make a note of the members present: Jerry Nielsen, Ada Ciandel, Rich Rydell, Tone, Ken Crandall, and myself, and Rick Walsh. Okay, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I always used to say that. Me too.
public comment period. Are there any
Not to bump
members of
that.
the public that would like to make a comment?
Yes.
Go ahead.
For those that you don't know me, I'm Greg Scott, and so I'm taking this opportunity to take off my other hat. I just recently, and this is more for Linda and Steve and the board, had the opportunity to eavesdrop on a conversation because it happened to be my wife who just had some stuff done over here, and she was very pleased, so I'll put that in ahead of time. But she was telling her friend about this, and the response from her friend was, well, I don't go there anymore because they're building words that I normally wouldn't use. And so I just wanted to pass along, I mean, this was a random thing that, and I think it has to do with the HRG that we're always discussing. And that's what it was. My wife had some problems in that they had three account numbers, and money that was coming in was going to different. And she said she found a young lady there who actually said, this will take about a week, I can get it fixed, and she did. The downside was that when she fixed it, there was no longer anything online to view, and she had no way to pay online. She has to, write out a check and do the snail mail thing. So that was my wife's side of it. Her friend, and this is anonymous because I was told to shut up. Well, because she related that she just had all kinds of trouble, and I don't even remember all the problems, but the biggest thing that sort of was the straw that broke the camel's back. They sent her account to collection for a $15 non-payment, and she hadn't paid it because she didn't owe it, and they finally said, oh yeah, you don't owe that, but it was still in collection. And that's when she said nope and washed her hands. So I just wanted to let you know that, with all this discussion with the HRG, and I know, Steve, it's getting better, right? he's up there high. I think that's some of the stuff, because as they were talking, they're saying, oh, well, so-and-so, that's the kind of thing I think that is out there in the community. So that, just wanted to let you know, I thought, man, I can't let that one go. I got to tell you about it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know about how long ago that was?
Well, my wife's was in 2018. I mean, it's been about 6 months. And she was perfectly happy. I mean, she understands that not everything, people aren't perfect. And somebody keys in the wrong number, whatever. The other person was not quite as understanding.
long ago was that?
Theirs was just about a year ago. Yeah. And, you know, so it's one of those things, so my suggestion, and that's when she told me don't say anything to anybody, was why would you let that go? If you're having a problem with billing and you're talking to people who are not solving the problem, i.e. HRG, why wouldn't you write a letter to administration, to the board? Why wouldn't you let somebody know? Because they can't fix it if they don't know it's broken. And the response was, well, I'd just rather go someplace else. So, I mean, that's a mentality you have to deal with. There are people like that. You know, if I was in that situation, Linda would be getting letters on a weekly basis from me, so just...
What contact information is on our accounts? Is it just HRG's contact information?
Is that local number on it, that 530 number? Yes. Do we have a local number, a 530 number they can call?
We have an 800 number, we have it, what that local number might be. It goes out to, that local number goes to HRG, that's assigned to us. But in our advertisements we have Sarah Lynn's number, she's our, what's her original title?
Financial counselor.
In our local advertising, we give that.
So we don't actually have that on the bill?
I don't think her number's on the
I
bill, so
wonder
maybe
if
we
we
need
might
to.
consider adding both.
I'm going to go the other direction, Greg. I had somebody come to me and tell me they were told that a person came to our emergency room and what they thought was wrong with the person was saying what was wrong with themselves, and they were not doing the right thing, and the follow-up was not good. And I went to Karen, and Karen went back to the emergency room, read the report on the visit, and everything about the visit, the person was treated appropriately. So, in some cases, in that case, it appears that she was not treated the way she wanted to be treated. So, but I mean, sometimes there's two sides to the story, not necessarily your friend, but
Well, you know, and I might, because that brought up another point that my wife made. You have to weigh comments. I guess according to the people that make them, because she, like I said, she's had several procedures here in the last 2 weeks. She had to come in for an EKG and went in to be registered, and of course I think the policy is if somebody's going into the emergency room, they go ahead of somebody that's trying to get a procedure done. Is that correct?
They triage according to the severity of what they came in for. So
Okay.
if somebody's waiting on a lab in an ER.
Well, and I'll give credit to whoever was working in the registration office, because they recognized a gentleman sitting out there, and because Leslie had been sitting there, and people were going in, and she's like, you know, what's going on? Well, they were going into the ER, and this gentleman came in, signed up, they looked at it, and they said, well, are you here, you know, for a, and he says, well, I've kind of been congested, and I kind of got this, quote, sniffles. And they said, well, you know, there's, what's it called, the walk-in,
The walk-in clinic?
critical care or something care walk-in. And they said, you could go there and they can see you right now. And he goes, oh, I'd rather go to the ER. I mean, there was no emergency, there was no injury, there was no threat to his life. And I'm going to say this, and if you don't like it, that's okay. He's probably on Medi-Cal and not going to pay for anything, so he doesn't care. He just I'm gonna do it the easy way for me, and if it, you know, so you do have people that are just, they think they know, well, they probably think they're doctors, you know, because they've read something online. And so then when they aren't treated the way they want to be treated, just what Dana was saying, you know.
Okay, I appreciate your comments. The appropriate people will deal with that. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, we probably want to just note the edit to the date and that this is a regular board meeting for the agenda.
Where was that?
Did you next see different agendas?
Well, my first page says special board meeting and March 25th. The rest of it looks.
Oh, I probably got the wrong one. I would say mine's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't had two in 1 week.
And you said there was something funny about yours?
No, you gave me it.
Okay.
I just have to remember to keep these straight. Any other public comment before we move on? Okay, then, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
It just came out early, so I was, yeah, thank you for that, sorry.
The approval of the minutes of the February meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Gary? Rich?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Ken? And I will also approve. Okay, Dr. Ware, you're up.
Well, there is no report from the medical staff meeting, and to the life of me, I can't remember anything remotely critical to report, so.
We do, Kat, you can chime in on Doctor's Day.
I was going to, my report.
Okay.
Okay. Steve, do you want to give a financial report, or do you want us to listen?
What was the second choice?
It's not very good.
Now I know why I started in March. February. All right, we're under tab E. Talking about the month of February 2019, the 8th month of our fiscal year. As Dr. Walls mentioned, February was a rough month. I think it was a rough month for all of us with the weather and everything, and both our professional and personal lives was showed why we live up here in the winter, not for the weak. So for the month, we had a total loss of $369,350 versus a budgeted loss of $186,626. So a negative variance of about $183,000. And for once, it was across the board. It was every area. When you talk about what contributed to the variance, well, our revenue was down. Our adjustments to revenue were in line, and even had a small positive variance to budget, but certainly nothing to turn around the budget deficit on the gross charges side. So net pension revenue was down, other operating revenue was down, expenses were over budget. And on the revenue side, the real thing that hit us was outpatient, and it was across the board. Our outpatient revenue was down, and it was pretty much across the board. The only area that really was close to budget, was slightly positive, was CT scan, which has been kind of driving the ship from an ancillary service perspective of production and revenue, as well as the ED. But the ED was, emergency department was down for the month too. So just the utilization of the hospital was down. The clinic, the visits were down, the visits were below budget. It was a combination of the fact that we were closed for a day and a half, literally closed for a day and a half because of the weather. I think the weather, even when we were open, certainly that last week of February was a challenge for all of us to get anywhere. And our total provider hours were down for the month. So the clinic does drive a lot of what happens at the hospital. So when we're down in the clinic, and then if we're down in the emergency department, then that's gonna get us where we're at. We're still doing fairly well on an inpatient basis. Some of it due, most of it due to the swing bed utilization that we've been experiencing. It's been a real plus for us this year. So we did have a positive variance there. When we go down into the expenses, salaries and wages were over budget for the month. And again, this is based upon 28 days. It's not a budget based upon the actual days of the month. However, we did find one thing. Sorry to stop in the middle there, but when we made the presentation, or when we met on Monday to do the board education, one of the comments I made to the board was that I thought this was a good thing for me as well, because as I dug a little deeper into our information, it helped me get a greater understanding of some of the things that help you guys try and figure out some of these mystical things that we do, whether it's the intergovernmental transfers or other things. But what I did find is that when we do our salaries and wages, that expense is based upon the total number of days in the month. So for example, February is the only one that works out right because we have a 2-week pay period, so we have 28 paid days in a pay period, 2 pay periods, 28 days in the month. But when we have 30 or 31 days, we have to account for those additional days, and we do it through what we call the accrual method. So the number of unpaid days, we have to set up an expense so that when we record our salaries for the month, it's on the total number of days. Well, when I did February, I said, boy, the salaries are negative and our contract labor is negative. I said that we haven't had that relationship yet this year. And so we looked at it a little bit, and Kelly Pettigrew and I will be talking to ADP, because I don't necessarily agree with the way that ADP has set up our accrual, the way that they create the fraction, if you will, for the amount that they accrue. So I believe that we under-accrued January, and then what happens is we record that accrual in January, and then what we call is we reverse it. So we reverse the accrual, and then we record the accrual for the new months. So what happens is we're under-accruing in one month, and then the reversal that comes out is a lesser amount, and so it overstates the subsequent month. And when you're just going from 30 to 31 days, because that's how they were basing the accrual, you don't see it. And then as soon as you see the 28-day month, it goes, oops. So we're going to look at that. And so I think that we have a little bit of January's labor expense in February, and that's the other statement. The other thing is that we have to record paid time off, and the way that it works for us at Seneca is people earn a certain amount of paid time off, and it's supposed to, if I say this right, covers holidays and vacations. Sick time, they do earn it, but we don't record it as an ongoing expense. We just pay it when people use their sick time. The reason we do that, as other places, is that folks can take their accrued paid time off, the vacation and the holiday, the unused amount. We pay that out when they leave. They don't get to take their sick time when they go. And so what happens is that we're accruing that paid time off, and there's an assumption, if you will, that people are going to use the paid time off, and if we don't have a lot of people taking paid time off, then we're paying them their actual salary, and then we're accruing that paid time off on top of it. And so we had a little bit of that in February, where what we call productive hours, non-productive hours are paid time off, that we had a real high amount of productive time, and so it just kind of distorts the expense a little bit. So it's something we'll probably talk about a lot more in the budget process, because it's kind of difficult what we do, because we have to pay the sick time, but we don't necessarily accrue for it. It's just on an as-incurred basis, and so it's a difficult thing to really guess when is the sick time going to be incurred. And if the sick time is in a 24-hour department, nursing, or some of the other departments that have 24-hour coverage, then we have to cover that shift. If the sick time is in an administrative department, when I'm sick, nobody goes, nobody comes in to fill my position, or we don't want to incur that expense. And so you don't see that immediately, that direct expense of essentially having to pay for two people in one position. So that's what led to the negative variance, at least in salaries. Employee benefits, we talked about this last month, and this was another one, is that we get our workers' comp through Beta Insurance, and it's a great program. It's kind of like if any of you guys are members of USAA for your insurance, where it's kind of a member organization as opposed to just a for-profit business. And so Beta will hand out credits and dividends based upon things that we do. If we buy multiple products from them, if we submit our information on time, these certain factors, and they apply credits. But when I did the budget, I took the amount net of credits, and then when I looked at what we're recording on a regular basis, we're recording the workers' comp expense at a gross amount. So what it leads to is that we're probably over-recording our expense a little bit, and then in the end we'll get a credit, and we won't have we're creating a liability, we won't have that liability. So when we do the budget for next year, I guess I'll just work with Kelly to come up with something where we either budget for the gross amount or we estimate the credit. I don't know which one it's going to be, but the workers' comp has been running over each month. So that's really what's driving that, and we're going to see that for the rest of the year. So the good news is that we just got a letter from workers' comp that said our payroll's up, and that they think that our workers' comp that we're underpaying. And so we said, well, we've been accruing at a higher amount, so that was certainly not the intention, but at least we have the liability established. So those are the kind of the unique things about Seneca that are starting to surface, and hopefully things that we can remedy through the next budget process.
So Steve, one of the things I want to tie in on, because it's really confusing sometimes, that part of that sick leave, we call it ESL, extended sick leave, that is sick leave that's accrued that the employees can't get into until they've been off sick and used 3 of their PTO days. That is what Steve was talking about. If they leave, they don't take that with them. And then the PTO has some portion of sick days along with vacation and holidays put into it. So it's kind of confusing when the employees look at their checks and they see, I think it just says ESL, makes them sick on it, and they think, oh, I can take this for sick days. No, you have to actually be out for more than 3 days, otherwise you go into your PTO. So those ESL days, it's really hard to budget for because who knows who's going to be out for longer than 3 days and will be using up weeks of their ESL. So
the ESL is like short-term disability.
yes, that is a benefit for our employees.
ask you a quick question? Says the Lake Elmer visits were down to a decrease in available plane days, snow, and total provider hours of work. Are they the same?
No, they're separate things. Dr. Ware has been, with her, yeah, been on medical leave, and she came back after her time off and has been working a reduced schedule. And that was probably the biggest one.
Okay, I just want to know if they corresponded directly, because they don't directly correspond.
And Dr. Slady was down, yes. And Dr. Walls works a part-time schedule, and so you have more or less hours in a particular period. Dr. Walls his contract is all based upon RVUs, so yeah, they are two separate things. Thanks for asking that. I guess last moment of confession here is on your supplies. So supplies are well under budget. Part of this is due to the volumes during the month, that our volumes are down. So our utilization of supplies was down somewhat. But one of the other things that we had, and we've mentioned it, I think, in a couple months on the analytical, but not spoken to it directly, is that the 340B drug program, which is a program whereby prescription scripts that are written out of this hospital that are filled, I think all we look at is Lassen drug, that are filled at Lassen drug, we get a rebate on the cost of those drugs, and it kind of flows through Lassen and flows back to us. We report the revenue up in other operating revenue, but then there are costs associated with that program, the cost of the actual cost of the 340B drugs. We pay a dispensing fee to Lassen, and then we pay the administration fee to a company to administer the program, which is very, very heavily regulated. Well, we overstated the way we reported the 340B drug cost was overstated in the last fiscal year, mainly when John Marshall came on and then I came on. We overstated it, and so then we based the budget on that. So that's just a continual thing where we're not going to get to that level. That was a budgeting error that now is producing a positive variance. But again, there's a savings due to the volumes we saw in the month. So again, with all that said, we had a negative $183,000 variance to budget. Year to date, we're at a $787,000 loss versus a $324,000 budgeted loss. So we're at about a $463,000 negative variance for the year to date, which really is, as you can, if you run up the last column, right by the C there, you can see that our operating expenses are really what's driving our negative budget variance, and will be the focus of what we look at when we go into next year's operating budget, mainly the utilization of contract registry labor, and then our physician contracts. Okay, so additional information, going back to the first page, using this blood bath, our daily cash on hand increased from 84.6 to 87.2. We received our Medicare cost report settlement in the amount of $641,000. That was the underpayment for our last fiscal year. And this was somewhat offset where we made our intergovernmental transfer payment of $259,000 for the hospital quality assessment fee. We'll be receiving about $550,000 in the month of May. And just this morning, I made the Medi-Cal managed care rate range intergovernmental transfer, which is under $1.3 million. And so we'll see that hit us in April. If you look at the days cash on hand in to the right there, you can see where our days dipped down in April and May last year and then shot up in June. You'll see that somewhere. I think Greg Scott in the newspaper said that we had a positive trend and the trend will continue. I thought I was talking about cash, so. Because I'm going to be in trouble.
Would you like a retraction?
Yeah. That by the end of the fiscal year, our days on cash on hand will exceed where we began the year at. Revenue cycle, gross accounts receivable ended the month at $3.97 million, which was a decrease over last month. The days decreased just a very minuscule amount to 54.6 and are still within the range of best practices. So questions or comments or?
Anyone have any questions for Steve?
I just have a couple. If you could, first off, going to the balance sheet, you show the core restricted funds and the local restricted funds. Look, and the 800, almost 900,000. But then you look over here and cash equivalents. It shows is that 5 million?
Yeah, data's on page 6 or 7. It's our cash flow. Our cash flow statement that's on page 6 or 7 accounts for all of our funds. So if you look at the bottom there, you can see that it doesn't classify it by the balance sheet terms, it classifies it by who's holding the funds. So that local agency investment fund that has almost $3.6 million, that's where the bulk of our funds are held now. When we go back to page 4 of 7, then our cash is a combination of, we're at the far left column here, closest to the rings. Our cash and short-term investments are $4.16 million, and then what we're calling board restricted, board designated are just right around $900,000. The short-term investments there is it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of our local agency investment funds and also our savings account. So it's two different presentations. When we calculate the days cash on hand, it's only based upon the cash and cash equivalents of $4.1 million. The board designated or restricted funds are excluded from that calculation. But when we do our cash flow, we account for all the money.
The other question I have, the debt service coverage, minus 388%. What is that, please?
Okay, we talked about that a little bit on Monday. I think we came to an agreement that it's in short, it's your ability to repay your debt from your profit. So your profit divided by your interest in principal payments. So unfortunately, in our case, and this is a year-to-date number, in our case, we have a loss. So we have no ability to pay our debt from our operations, our profitability, if you will. It basically comes from our cash.
And then there's money coming later. There's money coming later when they reimburse.
It does, and it just restocks the till. I mean, theoretically, we're paying from our operations, but at some point during the month, if you will, I mean, it's not an absolute timing, that the amount that we receive during the month is insufficient to pay all of our bills, and so that's why we see a decrease in our cash. And we've seen if you look at 6 of 7 or wherever it was, 6 of 7, that our cash and cash equivalents for the year have decreased $826,000. However, $559,000 of that is in the form of IGTs, and $352,000 of that is capital purchases. So, one thing just for the future, I think I've received some feedback about how we're presenting cash on the balance sheet, how we're designating particular funds, some discussion about how we should show that we have cash reserves, that we built up these reserves, that we put aside right now almost $600,000 for the facility master plan and future whatever we're doing. And that we funded, we put aside $320,000 for capital purchases for this particular fiscal year. So I think we need a bigger discussion in the next couple months about, what do we want to do? How do we want to fund this? And part of that will come out when we present you all a capital budget for approval that you say yes or no to, or you say, whatever you say yes to, we're going to set aside those funds to pay for that, so.
We're doing that in conjunction with the operating budget.
You are.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Steve? Okay, then I guess, Jacob, are you making the presentation on the service?
I make a motion to accept the financial.
Yeah, we have to accept it. So there's a motion to accept the financial report. Is there a second? All those in favor? Jerry? Rich? Aye. Dana? Aye. Kim?
Aye.
And I also say. Okay, Jacob.
All right, so what you have before you is the same contract that we presented over the last 3 board meetings. We wanted to make sure with a move of this big that we did all of our homework, and we also have some outside eyes come and look on it. So we asked Liz if she would take a look at the contracts and what we're getting and what we've got, and we've gotten her approval also. So it is my intention to ask the board that we grant CSI the contract to upgrade all of our servers in-house, with the exception of the Evident servers, because they've already been upgraded through Evident themselves. And so we can move forward before the end of the calendar year, so we are still within our typical compliance as required.
Could you just explain to me what we're going to see different when we do this?
As end users, you won't see any difference other than improved efficiency system-wide.
Where will we see that? I mean, how will that be evident?
Your logins should work quicker. A lot of this is based around outdated software. And by HIPAA's regulations when it comes to medical facilities, the way I read it is that any software that we have must be still supported by its manufacturer. And Microsoft is no longer supporting the operating systems we have on these servers as of January 1st, 2020. So if those go beyond that, then we lose our certification, all of our meaningful use money.
The other piece I think that you really want to know is that if one of these servers goes down, the redundancy, we're not down for a longer period of time. Because of the redundancy in these servers, you'll see very little because it just picks it back up.
You won't see another incident of being confined to your office for 18 days like we did here not too long ago. These are big enough to run the entire facility together, and if one of them were to go down, the secondary server in the redundant order will pick up and keep the facility moving without anybody ever noticing.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question about the SHI
Mm-hmm.
bid, their implementation fee. How is CSI not charging us any sort of fee to that level?
There's professional
So
services.
it's much smaller, right?
Yes.
And so I'm curious about how that's negotiated.
Part of what SHI sent me, they're kind of new to us as a vendor. We purchased a few other things through them. Their scope of work is given to them by Dell technicians, and it is my understanding that they kind of upgraded or up-priced everything. Because yesterday I got another one from them that was almost comparative. But the scope of work was much smaller. They wanted to do everything with a technician here on site that really doesn't know our system and doesn't know a lot of the things we have. They're vendors we haven't worked with prior to this. And with Dell, my last experience with Dell was very negative. So I'm not sure where they got their money or their numbers from, but I do know that CSI and Seneca Hospital have worked together for almost 8-10 years now.
Yeah, my main reason for asking is whether we're actually going to see some fees incurred somewhere else, maybe not from CSI, but from maybe a third party to help backfill whatever they were going to deliver through the SHI vendor.
No. All of our other vendors we're on standby with them. They're already paid. So the fact that their software is also several updates behind, that comes to us at no charge because we already paid for their services.
Okay, so we won't have to pay any additional contract labor for
No.
this, even like another party or party?
No.
Okay.
It's all in queue and ready to go.
I have a question along those lines. Why are we paying more through CSI for the license, for the same license? 8,400 versus 7,400. 49 versus 42.
I don't know, Rich, I didn't look into that, I'm sorry.
Shouldn't the license charge be the same?
SHI, in certain places, they might be getting a better Microsoft deal. A lot of those numbers, like I said, I don't know how they skewed their numbers one way or another. We tried to get a direct one from Dell also, and they never reached back out to us to send us any numbers or any.
Okay, but did we ever ask CSI why their license charges are higher? Because the chair said that, you know, the difference between these proposals is in implementation. Significant difference, $60,000.
Yeah.
But we're paying more for either equipment or licenses. Why is it?
I would have to assume there would be contract rates that each of these companies have with the manufacturers.
Rich, do you want David to look into your questions and table it?
So what do you think?
Well, if it's, I think it would be good to know the answers to why the big difference. I'd like to know, whether you think the service is as good with both companies. I'd also like to know whether you're buying new products or rebuilt products.
No, this is all brand new products. And these will maintain what we need and our facility needs for the next 3 years minimum.
What was the time constraint that you mentioned to be HIPAA compliant?
I have January 1st of 2020 for most of the Microsoft operating systems, but there are some subsystems on there that expire on July 1st of 19. And to get a project of this size from either vendor is at least 90 days out. My time is being extremely shorter as we go along. But I think that if we would like more information, then I can go look for more.
Remind me what the timeline is approximate for implementing.
Project queues right now are 90 days out. So if, for example, you were to approve this today, and I were to get Linda Wagner's signature on Monday, this project would go in a queue with 90 days from now to get it started. So that puts us right about June. a project of this size, we're looking at probably 2 to 3 weeks of initial implementation, and then they'll send the servers out here, and I'm looking at another 10 to 15 days for all of our other vendors to get their software loaded, tested, and have us up and running completely with Evident, with all of the lab interfaces, with the dictation system. This encompasses everything that we do as a facility.
The project itself, after the 90 days, would be approximately 3 months to implement?
Yeah. To not rush things, to make sure that we test and retest everything before we go live.
I would think it'd be an answer.
No, I have an answer.
Why there'd be a difference in the charges for a license.
I have the
Which to me
answer.
should be comparable.
Well,
So
and,
maybe Liz can provide that information. You know, if what we're doing is just receiving proposals and not asking questions of these vendors, I'm not quite sure I support that kind of work.
well, and I disagree with the not asking the questions. I specifically put Liz on this after Jake presented this information, after Jacob presented it, and she called CSI. The answer that I have for you right now is that CSI was providing us with more user licenses than SHI was, and I'm trying to find in the area where it says how many SHI did.
Is the per
That's the
cost
difference.
the per
Okay, well, that's a good reason.
Right, and I'm looking to see, but the, CSI is providing us with 200 of the Microsoft Windows Server license, the one-user licenses, and 40 of the 19 standard 2-core licenses, whereas the other,
Same thing SHI says.
that's what I'm trying to find.
Yeah, they have the same.
Because Liz had said that that's one of the things that she vetted.
Okay,
But that's how many licenses it shows on the SHI.
yeah, let's see.
Because, again, after the meeting last month, I had Liz call and check with both of these vendors to verify that the information that Jacob had presented was the correct information. She put it in a little different format for you, is at the end of that tab. Something that you were more used to seeing, how she vetted the two.
Yeah, so right here, for the Windows Server license for CSI, it says those are $42 per license, and SHI is $37 per license. And for the server license, CSI says $123 versus $107. So those are not the same price.
Where's that at, Rick?
I'm looking at the first page for the SHI, this one. And then CSI is on page, let me see.
CSI is page 1 of sheet quote.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
That would have been in last month's board packet. Michael says she's got it in this one.
And count C of the contracts again, Rich.
Okay.
Yeah, so the prices are different, to your point, Rich.
So there's more and the price is good.
No, the amount of license is the same.
So Liz recommended we go with CSI?
Yes, she did. And her recommendation is the last 2 pages under the back seat. Because we were asked to get another recommendation, and we got it, I had Liz do that review.
Yeah, that's what I think you handed out.
That's what I handed out.
That's a.
Yeah,
that's what
Did Liz get a copy of this?
So, I mean, was this budgeted for this fiscal year?
No.
That's just great.
No.
In the original that we started back in July, the amount was significantly smaller. It was just looking at swapping piece for piece. not incur another negative experience for anybody here. So, I think we'd originally asked for around 50,000, and this is come up some, in order to get the best innovative technology for us, what we really need to make this place run smoothly.
So the full amount was not budgeted?
Not the full amount, no. But in the original budget that TK and I sent out, I do remember that we had approximately $50,000. You know, we were looking at, as I said, just swapping exactly what we had for just piece for piece.
These numbers have gone up considerably from one of the other presentations. There's only about $10,000 difference in the bids on the original that we got. Now there's quite a bit of difference between the two.
That's what the addition of the storage area network that we added to this creates a redundant system which allows for absolute minimal downtime. And if you'll notice that, you know, I did notice that SHI is getting a little bit better deal on the licenses, and CSI is getting a significant difference, lower difference on the actual cost of the servers.
Well, I want to know if there are more questions. Is there more discussion?
As of the end of July, we will now have systems that are not HIPAA compliant.
There is that possibility.
When you say possibility,
There's a SQL server that is end of lifing in July 1st, and it's going to depend on the version that we are updated to. That is provided by other vendors. We have no control of that.
and how does that relate to this proposal?
How does this go up against this proposal?
Well, you're talking about a server and what version you have on it at that point in time.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, if we need these servers with all of the upgraded operating systems in order for our vendors to have their newest versions of all of their software.
They can't update now.
No.
Okay. Well, we aren't going to be compliant by July 1st anyway at this rate, right? Because this is a 90-day queue.
It's gonna get real close.
And what does that mean for our facility?
For our facility, we can expedite, hopefully get things expedited through CSI, as they've been a long time vendor of ours, we have a very good relationship with them. At most, what we're looking at is the possibility of that date coming and going, without knowing whether or not the exact SQL Server version that these vendors will provide us. But we tried to get them to upgrade over the last year. I've been trying to get this quote put together for the last 6 months. It's been tabled a few times, so we've had some hurdles and obstacles trying to get this going in a timely fashion. So I'm very confident that with CSI we can get this moved up. But we have to get something going in one direction or another, because LabCorp, for example, which does all of our QAs and all the quality controls through all of our lab instruments, they've been waiting for the same 3 months as I have to put all their new stuff on at no charge. Telcor, Novinet, Inmodal, all of our vendors are ready to go. But because of how old our software is, they don't put the newest software on full operating systems. So,
So the other piece where it puts our facility in jeopardy of what you're asking is if that SQL server goes bad before we can fix the new, put a new one. That's how.
Well, I'm asking if you find or have any sort of issue with the regulators.
Only if it goes down. So it's that, are we taking that chance by delaying it any longer? So I think that's what you're asking.
Well, does anybody have a suggestion?
You know, like, as
I just have one other question, back to Jerry's initial thoughts. It costs 1/5 to implement the CSI. Are we sure we're not gonna pick up additional off somewhere else?
There will be no more additional costs with this upgrade. I will confidently say that right here, in open forum. There will be no more additional costs. All of our vendors are already sitting in queue, they're ready to go. These are vendors we pay on a monthly, sometimes annual basis. All of those contracts we have with them come with software upgrades. So I see no additional cost incurred to this.
Okay, well, why then, when SHI made a proposal, didn't we tell them we don't need all that implementation support?
A piece of this is because CSI has already been our vendor, and so some of that support and those issues is something new for SHI, but because CSI is already ours, we won't have those costs. That's how Liz explained it to me.
Can you just explain a little bit, you mentioned loss of meaningful use revenue, can you talk about that just a little more, potential loss?
The potential is, with meaningful use, everything, all of, like even our evident vendors and all of our vendors have to be, our EHR has to be certified. And in the subsections of that, the way I read it is that all of the software that interfaces with the continued care for patients here must also be compliant. And their compliancy is defined as supported, upgraded, and by the manufacturers themselves.
And that revenue looks like what in terms of dollar amount?
That
It
would
would
be a
depend on
question
what
for
pieces
Steve.
of the meaningful use wasn't met, but that's when we attest by the end of the year. So it's during that attestation phase, we can say, yes, we are compliant, and we haven't attested yet.
Can you speak to, you said you got an updated bid from SHI, can you speak to what the difference might have been, just off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, the SHI, after receiving some more information from us, they came down by about 15% on the scope of work.
So on the labor implementation?
Yeah, on the labor and implementation, because what they did was they sent me another one with having all of the bare materials sent here, and then flying somebody out here, us paying housing, us paying for him to be here as long as it takes him to get everything programmed, to where CSI will do all of this in their labs at their home base, and then before they ever get here, they will be 90% ready to go. We'll just be waiting on our vendors to load
That was
their
covered by
portion.
Steve, do you have an opinion on this? Have you looked over the contracts?
I've decided with meetings with both Liz and with Jacob, and this comes down to a we need to do this thing, it's just a matter of when, and that's what we defer to these guys to tell us what it is. I don't understand how the different IT companies do their business. We saw the great disparity in quotes between when we went out to the facility master plan, where a company came in with $300,000 quote for the same project that others were getting $100,000, and it did come down to their professional fees because of what they pay their employees and the overhead of their company. So we're supportive. One thing I will say is that to the $50,000 that Jacob's talking about, We did consider that in our capital improvement plan, and it's reflected in next year. So if we were to do this, we would take some money out of our future capital improvement plan, unless something's added that we're not aware of at this time. So it's contemplated in our future cash flows. It's not, certainly not approved budget.
So we would budget for this fiscal year.
Technically, we didn't budget anything for this fiscal year, so.
That's my thought, that's why I wanted to clarify that.
But we've laid out things for you guys that we specifically have identified and have taken you, and in the plan we have, like I said, the 50,000 that we were looking at for the server, so.
Well, if CSI charges us at the end of the project, and that's in our next fiscal year, would that then hit our budget in the next fiscal year, or would it hit this one since we approved the plan?
It's a capital purchase, so the only thing it's gonna affect is the capital budget, which you guys already see already. Financial statements, the operations are not gonna see this at all. They'll see the depreciation, which we'll budget for, but cash flow, which we don't really reflect it necessarily, the way we do operations.
Oh, quick question here, I'm gonna run the risk asking dumb questions. What's the lifespan of this?
This will be good for a minimum of 3 years.
3 years.
Minimum.
Okay, do we have a budget for replacing this thing? Is that calculated in someplace?
That's what we're
Capital.
This is the capital budget, where we haven't narrowed it down to this piece.
Not in the document that you have, we looked at, right now, the best we've gone out is 3 years. And that would not include a cycle of these things. We're talking about our purchases in the next 3 years, not our replacements beyond that.
No, okay. And the other piece, Jacob, just from my experience, so I want to make sure you've had some conversation about this. A few minutes ago, you said there's not going to be any additional cost. That's going to be the minutes that show that to the vendor, you know, at some point. But I remember getting into a lot of debates about what constituted system inadequacies versus system upgrades. And, you know, we would, I would, you know, health, we would say this is not functioning properly, it's not meeting our needs. Should be on you, vendor, not us. And there's always this discussion about whether it constituted an upgrade, whether was it just making it perform as expected. So can you comment on that at all?
Right now, the operating systems we have in these are from 2008. This equipment was bought 4 or 5 years ago. It has met and exceeded its life expectancy and its lifespan.
No, I get that. I'm talking about when we get this piece in place, and there's a concern something's not working right. I mean, is there a clear definition of what constitutes their responsibility or a system upgrade, which they would say, I mean, if you're wanting an upgrade that wasn't part of the original deal, it's going to cost this much more. So do we have a sense of what constitutes upgrades to the system?
Yes, but I've already got quotes, contracts, everything from all of my vendors stating that there will be no more cost to us, because these are in the initial setup of contracts with Telcor, with Novanet, with all these other companies, that we buy your licenses, we get with perpetual upgrade rights to those licenses and software, and it's mandated by HIPAA that they keep their end of the bargain up also. It's a similar question that was asked about T-Systems in that argument that we brought up, about how do we know that these guys are going to keep up with their compliancy levels, and that they're mandated to keep up the same as we are.
Yeah, I get that. I was looking at it from kind of an end user perspective. It's not meeting our needs. And
I just have another way
Okay.
to pose that to Jacob. So it's like buying a new car, and we expect that new car to run. I think what you're asking is, how do we know if that new car, this is running the way it's supposed to run, or if this was a lemon of a new car, and it's that system's problem, not the fact that maybe we just ran it to the ground? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
I think it's worried about scope creep.
Huh?
Worried about scope creep.
Yeah, yeah. So it's, and Dr. Walls is using the system and he says, this is awful, this is not working for me. I know it's HIPAA compliant, but it's not working for me here because this is slowing me down too much.
The only end
Is
user.
that an upgrade or is that a deficiency, a defect in the system?
I don't think they should see a difference.
Nobody's gonna see that.
Okay. that's-
End user wise, no one will see it.
Okay.
What is VMware?
VMware is what we're doing is, it's virtual machines. So what we're doing is, we're taking one giant machine and we're breaking it down into 8 pieces. And doing that twice. So that we can have 2 physical devices running 8, right now I've got 16 physical devices and 2 racks upstairs. We pay considerable amounts for monitoring, security, things like that on each individual device. By virtualizing all of these, it will bring them down into 2 separate devices, and essentially what we're doing is we're creating the machine without the physical hardware. It's more like a consolidation of it.
And it seems like from this memorandum that Liz put together, one of the things that she explains in here is the excellent service we have with CSI so far. And that is contributing to a more favorable bid on their part.
Yes.
Is that your?
Yes.
Okay.
We've been with CSI since I started here with Liz. And we've had nothing but absolute remarkable customer service from them. They were on the phone with Dell more than I was over that 18 days. They monitor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for us. They're very, very good vendors to work with.
What's the monthly fee for that would go to CSI?
Which one?
It says managed performance storage device, $200 a month.
Yes. That's for them. They already manage all of our servers, so this storage device will be one more thing they will manage. They will make sure that all patches are put in, all security updates are installed after hours, then nobody will be affected.
So with their other quote, I don't think that was on there, is that correct?
Which one?
Like with CSI's other quote?
Yeah,
Was it on there too?
yeah.
No. Their redundancy quote does not have the monthly fee. I'm sorry, their smaller quote, it looks like redundancy on it.
Because the smaller quote that you have is without the storage area. So the $200 a month that you're looking at with the storage area network, or SAN, as it's written on there, is another physical device that they will monitor for us.
Well, are we gonna make a decision today, or?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, I think we can, but do we, have any equipment that we dispose of?
What was this question?
Do we have any equipment that we dispose of?
Yeah, I'll have all kinds of it.
You want some of it, Rich?
Value, I'll take it.
I'm working with the vendor right now on asset disposal to see what we can actually get a little bit out of. But you're buying 10-year-old cars, essentially.
Okay, so it might be better returned by disposing equipment, or are we giving it away?
I'm still waiting to hear back from vendors on how that works.
So-
Right now, it's all just still sitting here. I'm not getting rid, I'm not throwing anything in the garbage, if that's what you're asking.
Part of the analysis is whether you get some money back for equipment you no longer use.
Yeah.
You know, 5,000, 10,000, I don't know what it's worth, or if anything.
We'll definitely look into that.
I'd make a motion to approve the contract with CSI.
Which one?
There's 2.
Yeah, the 87.
Does everybody understand the motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further question? Okay, could you read the motion, Secretary?
I didn't hear the numbers. It was a motion to approve the CSI contract, but
For 87.
For $87,997.91. Okay, we'll have a vote. Jerry?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Dana? Ken?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thanks for letting me speak for the record.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get back to my agenda here, see where we're at. The strategy map, who's going to make that presentation?
Oh, I will, but you need
Just
to
skip over that.
talk to them about.
Oh, I'm sorry, well,
That's okay.
yeah, that was, I crossed it off on mine. Because we're not having a meeting until Monday.
Right.
So we can't really discuss it.
Oh, you have a meeting?
We have a meeting within the Monday.
So it'll be prepared, hopefully finalized for the next meeting.
And we did confirm, we found in the minutes that, the annual evaluation is September and the incentives is September and March. Those were the dates. We got that.
Okay,
So this will be on March's agenda.
It's gonna be on,
April.
April agenda,
April.
so we'll be behind the month.
This is, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, month.
We'll be behind a month. On the strategy map, you were given this, last month to look at, the senior leaders. You know, looking at that meeting, I was trying to remember, I didn't write down anything that was there. We did a questionnaire, we tried to put together so that we could, help move that strategic plan along, a strategy map to help us, stay within our mission and our vision, and, also give some objectives.
So who put this together?
We had John Peckham come out to help us. Okay, Steve, help me where you and are, rural health.
Got Office of Rural Health, School Medicine.
He helped us put it together. We had a meeting where we had sticky notes up all over this room, just talking about where we felt we wanted to move forward as an organization. There was also a survey sent out to some of the department managers and some key staff to get their input as well. And this goes along with our strategic plan and our mission and our vision.
I was present at that.
Thank you. I knew.
But it-
We do too. Thank you. I knew we had board members there. I just didn't write down the names.
I think it was a day late and I was short on this because I spoke to my class yesterday. I
Oh,
wish you would have been there, you could have
no.
presented.
So see, we're on the same page.
Strategy map.
There you go. So what we're asking is if the board would, would approve what we set out here. It's gonna help us move forward with the strategic planning and education and again, just set some benchmarking, some objective goals. It's also gonna help us with the CDL incentive.
Rich, do you have any questions on it?
I'm not exactly sure I understand the purpose. And when I look at the first line about financial objectives, I'm not quite sure I agree with things like increased total revenue. No, but overall, it looks good.
But for me, a few of these could be a little more measurable.
Okay.
And that's exactly what will happen is, once we get you guys to say this is where we want it, this is the direction we want to go, this is how we want to,
Targets.
Right.
we'll build an actual balanced scorecard.
Okay.
And within each of these measures, operating margin and management of expenses will have specific measurable targets, whether it's the actual operating margin,
Right.
those types of things.
We'll get numbers.
Okay, that's what we're looking for.
That's the next step.
That's something we'll see, right?
Yes.
If you want.
As soon as you have it.
Do you want an approval from the
Yes,
board?
so we can move forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the strategy map.
Is there a second? All those in favor, let's go the other way. Kim? And I vote aye. Dana?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Okay. I guess Linda, are you going to talk
Yeah, I
about
can
those
speak to
things?
that. This is the facility assessment tool for our skilled nursing facilities. This was one of the pieces that we didn't have put completely into place for our survey for last year, and they actually did not cite us on it because we promised we'd have it ready for them for this year. So you'll see who the people were involved in getting this assessment completed. And this talks specifically to our skilled nursing facility. It is something that is required by state, so when they come in, they're going to look at this. This talks about all the different areas, how we interact in skilled, some of the different issues we've seen. It's a very comprehensive plan. It was very time-consuming, putting it together, and tedious.
Did you have something to draw on to help put this together? I mean, it's extensive.
It's very expensive. They gave us a template, and so we were able to use their template and put the pieces together. One of the things in the back, you'll see this Hazard Vulnerability Assessment Tool. That's something that Linda McCurdy keeps for us, and that is, look here and here. That one is not specific to skill. That one is specific to the entire facility. They ask for things like the daily cleaning schedule. They want to see all of that in this skill, this skilled facility assessment tool. That's why our skilled nursing facility is so highly regulated, just because of pieces like this.
So does this mean every time we want to update policy related to that, then this has to be updated as well, right?
If we have that policy in here, yes.
Well, some of this though, it's not written, it's not actually a policy in here, but it looks like it is a policy. That's why I was asking about.
We have to stay on top of it, yes.
What did you use for source for rating the potential possibility?
Linda?
Yes?
There's a whole template to this hazard vulnerability analysis and how we the risk analysis. Linda, can you speak towards that because you're the chair of that committee?
Yeah, is it preordained or because?
It is not, Dana. That's based on historical data, not only in the Chester community, at the local facility, in and around the Plumas County. You know, the likelihood of a strike. I mean, where we have issues, labor issues. In the history of Chester, I don't think there's ever been a labor strike that's ever caused any real issues here. So that's how you base your percentage of likelihood of what's going to happen. And then you also base, if it were to occur, how severely would it affect the facility.
So, for example, the dam failing.
The dam failing's probably not gonna hurt the hospital at all.
No, it's those guys down.
It's gonna go below.
Yeah.
So dam failure's minimal. Now, if this
But it
dam
isn't minimal,
fails,
it's about 3 or 4.
now, we're talking about if the Collins Dam fails, which causes the water not to go down the diversion, but to come into Chester, then we have a very high likelihood of having issues at the facility. So you have to think about all of the places.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, sorry, before you
Yeah, so we bumped up forest fires and severe weather.
Yeah, no, my question was just, it's probably just how it is on the Excel sheet, I'm guessing. There's a lot of points on purchases reference, and I didn't know if that was an issue or not, but toward the end where it's for the spreadsheet. printout.
That one I don't do.
Okay.
I don't know who.
I printed it double-sided, so it didn't print it out.
I just saw a lot of the cells say reference in them, so I didn't know if you guys were gonna turn it in, and if it was in way regulated.
She gave it to me single-sided, and I double-sided it, so it could have changed.
Yeah, the original one we had, it had numbers, so we didn't get either. numbers.
I don't think printing works.
Yeah, I know. It has to do with the size.
Well, this isn't the one she gave me.
It has to do with the size of.
The one that she gave me.
Yeah,
Like this page.
Well, no,
Yeah, the one that she gave me doesn't.
If it says reference in a cell, usually it's because it's referencing a cell that doesn't have something in it or the calculation is wrong or something like that. That's usually why.
And then this page, like the All it says is DIB/0.
Okay.
What does that mean?
I have to find it because the page the one I have, which I first did, it was me, doesn't have that, it has the real numbers in it, so we'll bring it to you.
The one I sent
Alright,
out.
we'll get it right now. And the reason why this means, because this took us a long time to get put together, and we know survey is going to be here real soon. Because this is imperative that we get.
Vote to approve with,
Somebody write that down. We'll come back to her, so she's gonna go get it. Yeah, I mentioned that because it's in a copy that came out to us through the email also.
Thank you, as if we present that to the surveyor, what we
That
found.
was my concern.
And, we don't want to scrap them, so thank you.
So she went to get the.
She went to get the original one that was down by half was.
So we can probably do that.
Steve, you want to start on the capital budget, the capital improvement plan or something?
Sure.
And then you'll be interrupted when she gets back.
I don't have much to talk about. Okay, tab G. So the changes this month is that we finished the surgery lights that you guys approved. It looks fantastic. It looks so great there. You did a wonderful job. That was an interesting process.
The oxygen was welcome.
It's an interesting process.
We got a great deal on the lights, but we had to buy them immediately, and then they were stored for a while in the warehouse. And then the first time they were gonna come out to install them, we had a snowstorm, and they couldn't come out, and it just seemed like it went on and on and on. And we got it, and there was a gap in the installation, and they installed a sleeve in there that looks really, really good. It's first rate now. And then we talked about the IT server that'll now slide up into our approved purchases. It'll go under a board, as a board approved purchase. We continue our work on the upstairs relocation of medical records to the second floor of the clinic. That's well along on its way. Probably should be finished in the next couple weeks. It'll be really nice to have that done. So the big discussion right now is when we go into the budget for next year. So we'll be pulling together our request for you guys to approve for 1920, and then we'll also push out the capital, keep this capital improvement plan because we need it not only for our future purchases, but as we look further out, as the discussion we had about actually replacing things that we buy. It's, you know, we usually get so many years out of things around here at all our hospitals. So we have to be really aware of that. That some things we can't get beyond a certain lifespan. Software wears out or whatever, they're not going to maintain. So that's it. We started the facilities master plan. The architects were on site. I'm sure Linda will talk about that. So we're going to start incurring some expenses there. And we're well along with the Whitley market study. So that'll be a very good bit of information, not only to support the facility master plan, but about what's going on with the facility and
That's the original one.
how much business we could possibly get out of our market share when we talk about the strategy of increasing revenue from existing services or services. I would say we should have that in 2 months. That's all I have on capital plan unless there's questions. Discussion.
Any questions? And then, did you get the,
Yeah, Pat's getting the one, because the one that Michael has is not the one that went to that stuff, the one by the, she's going to look for it.
fine.
So we can keep going.
We'll keep going on the agenda. Governance, education, it says here nothing to report. So I guess there won't be any discussion there. And Steve, you're up again.
Okay. Okay, so, I guess I'm as bad as anyone, but I didn't actually know what was in our statement. So, this is an example of one of our statements, so probably for Greg and Sherry, public here. And at the top of the bill, it says questions 855-896-6853. That's the HRG number. You'll get an HRG person. But about a third of the way down, it says that thank you for using Seneca, your church is paid, we now have responsibility. Uninsured patients and patients with extenuating circumstances may discuss healthcare assistance options with the patient financial counselor at the number listed below. And then it says, for any additional questions or to speak with someone directly at the hospital, please call 530-289-3591. And that is the number for Sarah Lynn, 2 names. Sarah, first name, last name, Lynn. Our financial counselor and kind of our revenue cycle point person. And we want HRG, we're paying them to work our accounts, but if the public is having problems with HRG, this certainly gives an avenue for the public to call. We do even have some public members that won't give their credit card to HRG and will only give it to us, and that's fine. But as Greg mentioned, that if we don't know, we can't do anything about it. And we want to know about HRG. If they're rude, if they're not helping you, if they disparage the hospital or Chester or whatever, we want to know about that. So please encourage anyone that says there's a problem with the billing to refer it to Sarah Lynn or myself, and Sarah will absolutely follow up, especially now that we got new phones, because their voicemail works now. I must have got a couple phone calls that said, this individual doesn't return my calls, and I think the big thing too is that when you talk, and this is to the employees as well, and the board members, when you talk to folks in the public, yeah, we're going to be the first one to acknowledge that our accuracy rate on billing is not 100%, no way. And it's just, I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong with the bill. And, but what we will do is we will stand behind the services we provide in the hospital, just as someone mentioned, Greg, that said that someone did a chart review and those were the services provided, the bill was correct. You know, we're going to stand behind what we did, we're going to own what we didn't do right, and we're going to fix what we didn't do right. So I don't mind them saying those dummies there don't know what they're doing, but by gosh, they try and fix it when you bring it to their attention. So it's frustrating to have a medical, you know, utilize medical services and then have financial issues associated with it. So we want to eliminate that.
Steve, I compliment you on that. I appreciate that candid response and not going into a defensive response. So, especially, I wanted to ask you about the letterhead that comes with that notice of that bill that you have there. Is it headed HRG? Does it reference Senate on there? I'm just not, what's the heading on?
No, I think that the intention is that we're trying to make them an extension of our business office, and that's the strategy we use. Because I think they even answer the phone. I've never called or heard that answer the phone, either the hospital billing office or Seneca.
We do, and then filling the letterhead on.
It's your letter.
I know you don't work there.
Steve, that doesn't matter, on this one where there's like 330,000, they're still not being paid. And you say both patients are still in-house. Can you not bill as long as they're in-house, or what?
You can bill for some services. I believe you can bill for a swing patient You can bill for nursing home residents that are in-house. But until somebody has, on a hospital basis, has completed their care episode, we're going to send out a bill that's incomplete, and then we're going to send another bill. And very likely they could reject the bill as a duplicate bill for data service and things like that. So you really want to have a complete bill. What the significance of this here is that they're saying two things. Is one, they're saying that the unbilled is high, but we do have a lot of in-house, and I think we've talked about that with these swing patients. Right now we have a swing bed patient that's been here, I think, almost 60 days now. So, and so when we, there's nothing really we can do about the in-house. And that's just a kind of a unique thing about when you have swing bed patients. Normally our in-house wouldn't be a big deal because our length of stay on inpatients is maybe 4 days at the most, 3 to 4 days, and so that's it. What's more significant is what they use the terminology here. They don't talk about discharge not final bill.
What's that?
They don't use the term discharge not final bill. Those are the ones that are more concerning to us. Those are the ones where the patient has left the facility and for some reason we haven't submitted the claim. And it could be a myriad of reasons, from completing the chart to we haven't had it coded to it's getting stalled at billing, any number of things. And that's one of the things that we're going to try and target in their in HRG's contract extension.
Any other discussion on the?
I have a quick question just from your comments, Steve. Sarah Lynn, is she here or with HRG?
She's our employee.
Okay. So that number that's on the invoice on the bill is going to go to her.
We'll bring in her desk.
Okay.
And what she also does, as mentioned in the on the statement, is Seneca offers a financial assistance program. So it comes from two perspectives. One is if someone comes in as uninsured, we'll try and find some coverage for them, whatever that might be.
Right.
It may be specific to the occurrence, whether they could even be like a victims of crime, it could be a motor vehicle accident, something like that, to trying to get them approved for Medi-Cal. But in the case, if we can't find a third-party payer and ultimately the patient remains uninsured and is responsible for their claim, we have a charity care policy that's we call it a sliding fee scale or a tiered scale based upon the relationship of their household income to the federal poverty limits or schedule.
Yeah. Now, her name is actually on the invoice?
It is not.
Okay, so we don't want to publish that.
We just published the number.
In the
Okay, what is the number again?
Isn't her title on that bill?
Yeah, you can mention the position without mentioning the name.
Okay.
Patient financial counselor.
Financial counselor?
Patient financial counselor.
Yeah, because it might change anyway.
Not, only if it's a promotion. Very fantastic employee.
And what's the number again? Sorry.
All right. 259-3591. And Lindsay maybe can give an update when she does her part about what we're doing with the website. We're trying to enhance the website so it explains, there's some things that we're required to disclose now because of CMS. And then we're also trying to enhance the website for patients for the financial aspects of their experience with Seneca.
And then just a quick thing. because as you mentioned, there's a myriad of reasons why things are not going to be perfect. Coding, human error. What are some of the most common that you have to deal with? Why all of a sudden somebody's questioning a billing?
Chart completion.
Sure.
That's the timing of the bill. Thank you, Dr. Walls. But to the thing about the bill, the problems we have with the bill is when the insurance company processes the claim, they can process the claim wrong. One of the problems we're having right now is if you go to a primary care doctor, like a family practice or an internal medicine physician, that's called primary care, and the co-insurance for that is $25. If you go to a specialist like Dr. Jensen or Dr. Bearcat or the orthopedics, the co-insurance could be $50. And sometimes when the insurance company processes a primary care claim, it'll come through with a $50 co-insurance on it. And that's wrong.
Well, and the other thing that it just dawned on me, and now the word is escaping me, but you have, if the doctor writes on, it's something you're going in for a certain, what is it, preventative care. Sometimes not putting that on a doctor visit will change the amount of copay, or whether there's a copay or not.
Correct.
Okay, because look, these are just things I'd like to bring out and let people know. You know what, you've got to be proactive. You can't just sit there and complain. Find out what's wrong and fix it.
Right. And that's a great example. The annual Medicare visit. You get only one first-time visit to Medicare, and then you get an annual visit, and if you have more than one, it's not free. The first one's free, the next, everything, and so it gets very, very confusing. And we do our best to be on top of determining whether or not a patient's had another visit and trying to educate the patient, but ultimately something slips through, and then the patient's all of a sudden looking at a bill.
Where we had total payment plan for 120 days, that dropped, that on road.
Mm-hmm.
What was the comment I didn't really hear?
Oh, sorry, I just asked him, under self-pay on the finance dashboard, aged over 120 days from assignment, I'm sorry. Total payment plans over 120 days dropped significantly from last month. I was just questioning why that might have been.
That aging over 120 days is about the only thing it could be is a conversion to bad debt. Somebody can make a payment that large to move it.
At first I thought, wow, we're building so much better, and then I went, our bad debt for small.
Yeah, private pay is a big issue for us, and this goes to the whole discussion about patient bills and everything. That's probably one of the things that we're really focusing on. One of the primary things we're focusing on with HRG right now is the cycle of statements. What we found is that normally the way it goes is becomes a patient responsibility. You get 1, 2, 3 statements over a 3-month period, so about 90 days. Then you get with that third statement, you get a 10-day notice. And theoretically, the account should be on a structured payment plan, should be settled, or should be going to bad debt in that 100 days, and we're finding that's not the case. That it's extending out beyond that.
It's like a denial rate.
Not big time.
That jumped out.
It's gonna show going forward. That the AR days haven't necessarily come down. A lot of it's due to that we've had some really large, the in-house claim, and large swing bed claims that cycle over multiple months. But the denial rate was probably the most encouraging thing.
So, and you and HRG worked out a new contract or an updated?
We have the the parameters of an extension, a one-year extension that's going to include some performance metrics in there.
What does that look like?
It's going to be, again, the days that if they if their AR days go over 49, then the percent, their collection percent that they charge us goes down a quarter of a percent. If it's between 41 and 49, there's no change, it's the existing rate. If it goes below 41, then they get an increase of a quarter of a percent. The percentage of denials worked, some rep physically touches it and does active work on it within 5 business days of being received. If it's less than 97% of the denials, then they get a decrease of a quarter of a percent. If it's 97 to 99, no change, and greater than 90%, they get an increase of a quarter of a percent. And so we think that all of those will close the door on it. We will monitor. They'll send us their denials worksheet, their denials log. We will monitor it to verify that work is being done. If something's on their denials log and not being resolved, we'll look and see why. And we also continue to monitor their payer correspondence for denials and no pay correspondence. So,
Do you have any trouble working that out with them?
well, they seem to want to work with us. So we'll see. We come to one issue with them where, and this is a thing to the comments about problems with patient accounts, is we're having some problems. This is being caught by Sarah, is that the way that when your explanation of benefit comes, what the insurance is going to pay and what you ultimately would owe, if anything, we're finding some errors with the way they're being posted by HRG. And so we're giving some thought. Right now we post all the self-pay payments here at Seneca. We're giving some thought to bringing the posting back in-house, and then we would adjust their contract, and that would allow us to control the processing of the EOBs, because we think that one area that there might be some opportunity for some revenue enhancement is we don't think that there's enough work, nitty-gritty work, done on absolutely confirming that payers are paying us at the appropriate rate for our contracts. So they're going to put together a proposal about software that you put the contract terms in there, and they scrub it, and we see that. So that's where we're at with them. So we will have an amendment.
Thank you. Do you have enough to go back to?
So we're going to have to defer that just because we don't have the hard copy that Roseanne had put together, and all the email copies have that same REF on it, and get that number out. So I'll have the skilled nursing folks dig into that tomorrow with her computer. She's out on medical leave right now. She comes back right now. She's scheduled to be back on Monday.
So that was all Monday.
Yeah.
But you want to have this before the next inspection?
Well, I would like to. We could actually say we brought it to board, you looked at it, you had some questions, so therefore you didn't approve it, and it's going next month. I mean, that's the reality of what just happened, and that's what we'll tell them.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to approve something and you don't have all the
I
records for it.
don't think this board will.
Yeah. And I'm not asking you to, so.
Okay. All right. Bylaws committee update?
I don't have a copy of the bylaws in my packet.
Here you go.
Do you want to walk through them, or do you want to wait until they're on computer on the projection? That's equal. We can talk through the questions and comments.
Here, I gave you just an overview of what the template was here. I'll speak to it just a little bit. In the document, you'll see a lot of strike throughs, and there's a great deal of attention paid to trying to avoid redundancies. And in some cases where we're actually citing and giving narrative form to other statutory sections, we just cited the section and eliminated the language from that section, didn't quite carry over. And then I guess the other thing you should be aware of as you look at this is we tried to borrow, Linda, language from the districts that had been
Certified.
Certified.
They say it should be certified.
Yeah. And Jerry did most of the work in tracking these changes.
Yeah, they were all tracked in our meeting minutes.
Rich, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I read it, and I think the two of them did an excellent job, and I'm ready to say let's go with it.
So am I.
Well, there were some questions and comments in here, and there were some follow-up items, a couple of things I think we were gonna get back to us with.
And so I have not had time.
Yeah, so
We
we're not
just
quite
got
at the
this
point
on
yet.
Friday. The other piece,
Okay, I didn't receive any questions.
right, no,
I just read the document. The document looked excellent to me.
and then the other,
What are the questions?
So, Rich, when you read it, the track changes, if you didn't see track changes on the document that you were reading, you actually have to log in with a Google account to see the track changes, we figured this out. So if you weren't logged in, what you saw was as if all the changes were already accepted and all the comments were followed. So there were just a few different things that as we had gone through where, for example, page 2, we had talked about whether a section in here was really necessary, talked about referencing the law, but we hadn't made a decision on that, and just various minor things. They're not major things, they're minor things.
When you say we haven't made, you mean you and Kim?
Well, from our committee,
The
the
committee.
committee was there, and
Linda and staff were there, and there was
Yeah,
a great deal of discussion.
Dana was there.
she wasn't.
She was there,
Okay,
Tyler.
there's a final document, and I liked it. If you think you can improve it, fine.
The only thing that I need to do now, and this is what we had discussed, is I have not sent this through to legal for legal and compliance. It was going to be, it's better to send to legal the document that we're ready for them to review than the changes. So that's the last step that we'll have to do before the board approves, is to send it to legal to make sure that we're covering on the legal side and the compliance issues.
Okay, so then we want to put this on the agenda
For next month, but we just need to know, and I think this was Jerry's point, is this board okay with what we have here so far? I don't see that.
I have yours. She had it.
but we're not, obviously, we're not going to formally approve something that's
No,
not.
no, it's not ready for
It's not
action.
for approval.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, do we want our next meeting to project it so that we can be looking at the same document together?
Yeah, you can work that out with Jake. We could get together at the next meeting and project the bylaws overhead, right?
Absolutely.
To discuss it.
Yes.
I think it'd be easier that way.
It'd be easier for us, it wouldn't be easier for Rich.
If we did a video conference.
We can video conference.
I have
with me.
another task for each.
Well, you can follow along with the paper. Okay. So we'll put this on the agenda for next month, and then one of you can get together with Hank. Strategic Planning Committee,
Yes, we're trying to get with Stephen Fleming and Carlos Espana, and they're I always say the wrong acronym for they found me right. Yes, thank you. So we're trying to get with them to make sure that this April 18th date, we've advised them to the strategic planning meetings, and they've not come yet. So we're trying to get that date put into place, and I'm just going to talk about Collins Land right now instead of waiting on the CPO report. they agreed with us, or they agreed to the 10 acres. We're in the process of obtaining MST to do the survey so that we can get it to the county so that they can change the parcel plot maps. So we were very successful in getting the full 10 acres, and they agreed to our independent appraisal price. Originally, they were going to go out for another appraisal. They felt that that price was a little low, but I guess the board said no, that was fine, and they came back to us with the agreement that $85,000 was a fair price, and that's what they were going to do for us for the full 10 acres.
What is, our current count says how much land?
Linda McCurdy.
7.23 acres.
Okay.
So that was, I was just really pleased between Linda McCurdy, Lance, myself, trying to get this pushed through, and we got it. So thank you to Collins Pine and their board for agreeing to a reasonable price, fair market value, and also that full 10 acres. And if you want to see out there, they've started to flag the pieces of the area, there's some red flags out there.
So what was the price?
85 for the full 10. And then again, right, if you set your date April 18th tentatively for a strategic planning meeting, 3 to 4, we're still trying to get a hold of those two folks to see if that works for them as well.
What, 3 to 4?
3 to 4, April 18th. It's a Thursday. 3 to 4. And again, that's kind of it. We'll get it out to everybody when we actually like it. Keeps me on track.
Okay. Then I guess we'll go on to the CEO report.
So top on the list is the provider recruitment update and Pat.
So Doctor's Day is actually Saturday, March 30th, but since it's a Saturday, we are going to celebrate tomorrow, and we are having a potluck. We're going to have tri-tip from the Elks Lodge, and the rest of the facility will bring all kinds of goodies. So you're all welcome to join us from 12:30 to 2. A fun theme tomorrow. We do have a new dietitian. We are waiting one piece of paper to complete her file, and she will be starting here hopefully by the end of the week. And then this week we have 3 new CVs for family practice positions that some of them actually look kind of hopeful for interviews. I don't know if it's because the snow has stopped or it's not as much, but I'll take 3 in 1 week. That's a good thing.
So when they came across the desk today, that she was looking for snow in order.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said, let's call her right away. Oh, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
The IT assessment, we had Liz come in, and she is working on getting me her summarized assessment. We also will be going out for that infrastructure assessment. Jim Howenstein, I had chatted with him, and he gave me the name of a reference, Binda Manji, that he knows our facility. He was here way back. And so he can come in and give us a assessment on the infrastructure. So Jacob's going to help us get that done with Binda, and we're moving forward with that as the board had asked me to do. Legislative update, Ledge Day for SHD is April 8th and 9th, and I'll be down there. They set up meetings with the legislators. I'm not sure who they are setting me up with yet. So I'll be down there. I can give you some information when I get back. We do know that there's going to be some changes to healthcare with our new governor. We're just not completely sure what yet. So
Federal.
oh yes, that just came out that it's not this. It was while we were Sadie and I were back from the compliance seminar trying to strike down the ACA. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, I think this week just struck it down its entirety.
It's not good. Sadie and I, as I alluded to, went to the week-long compliance seminar. We came back with binders full of things that some compliance, pieces, some new, some, that we're doing really well. So you're gonna be seeing some changes, with the compliance part. If we sat the compliance exam, and that's a brutal test, let me tell you. But we looked pretty good actually when we were looking at what we needed to do and what we're already, meeting. I do want to send out some kudos for some of the things. Some of the folks, they talked about the sanctions list, and saying that we're having many heart attacks at the time we came back to the facility, and found out Jacob's on top of that, and already doing some of the compliance, Pat's doing the sanction list with the physicians, Jim is already doing the sanctions list with employees, so we were much more further ahead than we were having our many issues with, because we thought, oh goodness. So my point is, the staff has been on point, they're fantastic, they're staying on top of these issues, because we have great staff here. The LEAD Academy, that's the Leadership Academy that California Hospital Association puts together. We're sending Ann and Sadie to that academy. I think you guys have had, what, 2 classes so far? They come down with all these wonderful ideas about culture, leadership changes. And so previously we had sent Karen and who else? Who went? Karen and you went? Oh.
All the way down to Fresno.
Yes, and then Casey's next slotted, we'll have 2 more next time it comes up.
Casey's going in May.
Hey, who's sponsoring that?
Pardon me?
Who sponsors that?
California Hospital Association.
Really good.
So that's part of that leadership training that we're doing outside for our, some of our leaders. Hey, Dave, you?
I asked you on the call, on the land, is that, with it without trees? Are they selling it to us?
Well, when we had the initial conversation with Terry and Paul, we told them that they can log it and take the trees. That still is part of, that agreement is not anywhere written in this written agreement that we have.
At least $100.
That's still a piece that we'll have to work out once we get the plot map, and then we write the legal agreement. I do want to say that the previous case that we had, that we thought there might be some litigation for, has, the time frame has passed, and there has been nothing filed in the court, so that has been put to rest. Joint conference, I wanted to remind Ken, joint conference is April 2nd at 2:30. Gary, you were slotted for June 20th?
No, they hadn't decided. Dana said either one was good for her, so that
I have Dana pick December 5th.
they told me either one.
I'm good, whatever.
Okay. And then Rich, you're still on for September 19th.
Yes,
Okay.
What was the time again?
It's at 12:30 to 2, and it's here in the conference room. So Jerry's doing June 20th, and then Dana will do December 5th.
And just real quick, back to the litigation, is
Oh,
there
yes.
any further data, enhancement?
No. Okay, so I have Prime Grant up here, but I'm not gonna speak to that. I'm gonna let Ashley and Casey talk about that when we get to their report, because I'm not spoiling their.
They're up next.
Okay, good.
We're gonna pick up children at daycare.
Okay, great. Sorry.
So, Care Coordination is proud to say that we submitted crime on time, before crunch time, with no errors. So we're super excited. Though submitting crime, you sit on the edge of your seat, like praying to God you're meeting the metrics, you know, because it's reimbursement that you're waiting for. So we had fires, we had lightning bolts, we had a star, which I got really excited for, but we're like, oh man, all these fires, what are we doing? We had arrows. Well, come to find out, we're high performance this time. We are paid performance for all metrics this time, and the star means we were underperformed, but now we overperformed. So we passed with flying colors this time, so we're really excited.
How do you overperform?
Because we did so bad last
You're
time.
too good?
We were too bad last time.
It was
that we-
actually you.
Yeah.
And you must know, it was you.
Thank you for doing your med rec on discharge.
Did not video, everybody knew how to dance. Yeah.
It was so
It was very loud.
But it scares us for next reporting because we're now our numbers have increased, so we have to perform better. So please do your med-rec on discharge and within 30 days. We also we're going to Quincy on Tuesday to meet with FRC and finalize the stuff on the CNA program. We just met this last week with Chester High School and FRC, and it seems that things are going in the right direction to have that started for the fall semester at FRC. So they're going to start advertising here soon, is what Derek was saying. So that class should be opening soon. It will be held at Chester High School, and clinicals will be here.
How many slots?
8. Tomorrow we're meeting with FRC again for the Bridge RN
Yeah,
program.
LVN, the paramedic bridge program.
So there was a big ad in the paper about, was it Lasso College that's opening an LPN program?
Yeah, they're hoping to do their clinicals over at Lassen Rehab. They had kind of gotten on the naughty list for a little bit and had to wait till it all passed, and now they're in the clear and they can start it over there, which they're really, they're hurting just as bad as we are.
And that's the program that they had put together. They ran one course of students through, and then they had to be put on hold for a while because they didn't have enough of the facilities because they can't come over here to us. And Susanville Rehab could not take students at the time. They were under a sanction. So they had to put their program on hold because they didn't have any place to take their students.
So we get lots of calls, so they should be starting. Derek said they were going to put out advertisements. They're going to send it to Lindsay to put on the website so she can get it holiday and that kind of stuff, and we'll start getting students. And it's a first come, first served thing on their end, and I think it's like $46 a unit. It's not very many units. So
And we're really excited if they can get that LVN paramedic to RN upgrade program. Here, our folks won't have to go up to Shasta, they won't have to go up, go out
Oh,
of the
but they
area.
should. Just joking.
So, the ladies are gonna be going over there tomorrow to discuss what Federal River College needs to move forward with that program. A piece of that is, there is a lack of master prepared nurses in the area. So, they'll make sure that they let them know which one of our nurses here, I think, actually, I think that's a master's prepared, that can help them so that either I teach a class or I use a proctor for those students so that we can make sure we move forward with that.
they've already announced who's in it, from what I've heard from the LVNs that we have that have tried. So we're really hoping to get it there. It's just hit a couple snafus that they're going to try and work out tomorrow.
They can apply for scholarships through the auxiliaries too.
Yes, or if they're a Chester graduate, they can apply at Comp Science too.
And I believe workforce will help them
Yeah,
too.
workforce will help.
But how much did the auxiliary do this year? Or were you gonna say?
I was gonna let Karen say that, but I will. 35,000 this year. They've got the list, we turned that into them, and it was fantastic. Thank you, folks.
And our patients are now receiving care quiet packs on every observation on the floor, so they have their holds, their earplugs to help them rest peacefully. Thank you.
So one thing about this, the majority of it's gonna be online, so a lot of the nurses that we have here can continue to work while they're doing this until they get to their clinical part, which is not gonna be very long, so they're very, aware that most of these people will be working, so that's a good thing. We're excited about this.
Thank you. Karen, you're up.
Unless you have any questions for me, I don't have anything.
I have something I wanted to talk to you about. I think it would be a good idea to put together some sort of a policy to have a backup plan if there's an emergency in the emergency department. If we have a doctor go down, we have no backup doctors or anything. Maybe we could look into having an agency or something that could supply a doctor in an emergency.
In an emergent situation, okay, we'll look at that. And, if you wanna say, I appreciate that you did, jump in last week and help us.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Roseanne isn't here, does someone have a report for her?
Other than, we're expecting survey, we're in that survey period, so we can get a skilled nursing, the annual survey is not unannounced, it's that we expect it anytime now. And Roseanne is out on medical leave, but she should be back by Monday, unless it extends.
And I think before you get started, I want to tell you, I finally sat in on one of the psych consultations, and the doctor was pretty good. I was impressed.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. Wish we had more time with him.
Yeah, that's the big problem.
Yeah, so in that, we are working on trying to get another psychiatrist credentialed, and trained. I believe she's already credentialed, correct? So we're just trying to complete her training so that we can get her started. I'm stepping in because I guess there's some other additional issues that might be able to influence, I'm not sure, so, anyways, I'll keep you posted on that. My biggest announcement, I guess, is I just came back, and why I came in late, I just came back from, an assist training, which was, put on by the Plumas Rural
Services.
Thank you. Plumas Rural Services. It stands for Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. So JJ went in January and was the first person in Chester who was certified. And Ronnie and I both went, maybe the three of us here within the facility that are suicide intervention certified. And we were also in class with several people from the Wellness Center and the schools. So there's 10 people now in Chester that are
14
certified.
actually.
There was 14 in the class, but not
Yeah,
everyone was from
well, she
Chester.
said she was gonna hand out 14.
Yeah, they were between Greenville and Chester.
Oh, okay,
So,
I see what you mean.
yeah, so there was some from Greenville, but, so that really increases the resources for suicide, prevention and intervention in the area, and I think that's very exciting, especially with the work that we're doing for behavioral health in the clinic and telehealth, so.
You know, something else you could tell me, is there any plan to have the Narcan training available here locally in Chester? Do you know of any?
I have not heard of any, but that's something I can dig harder and see if we can influence bringing something here.
Yeah, because, I mean, prescribing is easy, but they need to have training on how to use it.
Yeah, let me see what I can look into.
So, Ann, I just wanted to, I guess, give you a heads up on this. There's I talked to Dana Nolan, is that how it's saying? Yeah, she told me they're looking forward to doing some additional training on suicide prevention, but it's mental health first aid training.
Yes.
And I guess that's on the horizon, spring or summer.
Yes, I'm coordinating with her, trying to find a date. Right now it's in July or August when she has availability to come up. And we're trying to find a location depending on the number of people that we have as well. They have two different versions of that training. One is first responder, healthcare specific, and the other one is more public oriented. So depending on how much interest is in that, we can either do a combined or specific to each, and we're trying to.
They also have an adult version and a child and adolescent version.
Yeah.
And I did forget to say that on April 2nd at 5:30, they're having the mental health services, it's an annual dinner that they have over in the wellness where they talk about all the services that they have. It's been in the newspaper, so, and it's open to the public. You just need to call and let them know if you're coming or not.
You need to make reservations.
Yes.
This is really a stakeholder process for the mental health services plan.
Well, and on that mental health first aid, they have 2 trainings currently scheduled, not in Chester. But, so, I mean, anybody that's interested, if you don't mind driving to Feather River College on May the 8th, they're having one down there on the 8th, and then another one over in Portola, which is, or Quincy, which is a little farther, not that much.
Linda, I don't think we talked about the clinic and the therapy space, how that.
How's that coming along right now? So we're having Aspen come in and evaluate all the different spaces, and what our thought processes were for all the different, the occupational services, moving HIM as I'm staring at you over there. The upstairs space is almost completed, so then we will be moving her department upstairs, and then we're looking and evaluating what's going on over there in the hospital side. What we're finding right now is, thank you, Oshkosh, there's been some rules changed, and anytime you add on any new service, whether it's inpatient or outpatient in an existing building, you lose your grandfather clause. So the OSHA, or the occupied inspector, who told me that, yeah, not a problem of putting outpatient occupational therapy over in the hospital, was wrong. Because we could do it, but we would lose our grandfather's clause for over at the facility, and would then have to make that be a compliant facility when we go for that license.
Compliant for,
That's way to occupied, right? We're gonna have to occupied 3, Linda?
Yes, but it would have to be upgraded to all of the new building construction standards that are in place as of today.
So part of that Aspen evaluation will be working, what can we do to bring in outpatient occupational therapy? We're already doing occupational therapy for screening and skills in the patients. How can we bring in that new service? Because this building isn't even an OSHA-free building. So we couldn't even bring that service over here because that was the backup plan. We can't do that. So Aspen is helping us to look at what can we do, how can we move over that.
so basically right now we're remodeling the upstairs, but there's nothing we can put down where we're moving.
Oh, definitely, no. We are out of space over on the hospital side, so what we're looking at is moving, over to where HIM is, moving, and we haven't told all the staff, so I'm not gonna say what we're moving, but we're looking at moving some of those acute, areas over there into that space, because they're overcrowded. We don't have enough room for, bringing patients in to talk with them about different issues.
But it won't be revenue generating, which is what we originally were looking at.
Not over there. Because there's no way we can bring in a revenue generating department into our current acute facility.
How much have we spent so far on that new one?
On upstairs, do you have the numbers, Steve? I don't have the numbers. The remodel.
It's on budget, we looked at it, it was about $115,000 for the whole remodel, so.
Yeah, I understand, but I think the reason why the board approved the remodel is to have the revenue generating.
And I understand that, and unfortunately, I can't change the OSHPOD changes.
And I just think it's something we should have known.
I would have loved to know that ahead of time, but
That's why I didn't want to vote on it at that point, because I didn't feel like I had enough information given that same day.
But that last green building is unoccupied.
What's in there?
Well, there's Steve and then there's.
That has the housing, that has the housing for, the agency and travelers.
So I guess we spent $115,000 when we didn't necessarily.
Well, no, the board directed me to do something with the upstairs at one point, so we are doing something with it. I don't want you to have that notion that we're not. We're just, what we're doing is we're gonna maximize space over an acute that we didn't have space for.
So, I don't have a good sense on what the cost to get up to standard.
And that's a part of what Aspen is giving us right now in that, assessment, is what is the cost to bring the hospital up to code so that we'll recite the regulations, as well as being an occupied free. See, and that was the piece that Linda and I just found out, 2 days ago, that this building is not occupied free compliant, and it has to do with the HVAC system. We were not told that.
Okay, and
I don't know
that's why I'm
that-
just still
that's
wondering,
not-
okay, how does it get fixed? I mean,
So that's gonna be a part of that assessment that Aspen's gonna give us on what does that cost?
The last time we looked into that, it would have been cheaper to build it was.
Yes.
then, I was just talking about the clinic.
Oh, I mean, to bring the hospital out.
So one of the pieces that we are also looking at in an option for us is that upstairs space. If we bring in, because it has to do with the HVAC system, if we bring in a standalone HVAC system that will bring that outside air into that space we did upstairs, then can we bring occupational therapy upstairs? So that's what we're looking
Well,
at.
that's kind of where I was trying to go with this
Right.
whole thing. I mean, I've always kind of maintained if we have more providers here, people in the clinic, they will come, they will come, and then that'll have impacts to the hospital as well. People become accustomed to being here. So I think it becomes kind of a priority to make that a provider.
And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We built that space upstairs was built so that it could be you can change it. It could be very flexible to what use we want to do with it upstairs. Other than you can't, we can use the same service because our service here in this building is outpatient physician services, so we could put a provider up there, you just can't bring in outpatient occupational therapy up there. It's the OSHPD rules, I can't change those OSHPD rules.
And just to Ken's point, though, you should be looking at providing services in that space, not moving stuff.
Well, we're working on it, we're trying to see is that allowable. I don't want to spend another $100,000 on an HVAC system up there that OSHPD is now going to tell me about. So before we move forward with what are we going to do with that, we have to get that okay. So, and we had received the okay from Aspen when we first started this whole conversation.
How long will that take them to do their analysis?
They came in and we had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago, so that was the initial piece. They've not given us the full time frame on that one. That was moved forward on the priority just because of where we're at with that. That's what we found out about, this whole change on.
We probably want to keep this on our agenda for next time to make sure we keep track of it. And I think the other thing I was gonna ask about was where the county is, I guess, with the homeless initiative that's going in place there.
You know, Casey just left because she went to that last meeting with them and she did not give me that update. Karen, did she give you the update on that meeting?
Because I was out on Tuesday.
So I don't have an update for you on the county meetings because I think Casey's right, and she did not give me that update. We're still working through it. I do know that we've had 2 patients now, Karen, that we discharged out, that we fully outfitted and went to their home, and the one patient.
Policies and procedures too, because we have a whole set
That
of
was my next question.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on this right now.
You're working on the policies and procedures, right?
Yeah.
That was my next.
Oh, that, I'm sorry, I didn't know that's what you were asking.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not realize that's what you were asking. Anything else?
It's quite a few too, so you'll be getting.
Yeah,
It's quite a few of
figured
them.
it would need to be.
Yeah.
Well, because it talks about, the policy has to be about, do they have adequate housing? Is there food in the housing? Is there electricity in the housing? Is it a safe place for them to be? Are there pets that are unsafe in the house? Do they have the clothes? I mean, there's,
We did talk a little bit about, which was kind of interesting to me, even people that like have housing, like we've had one patient that has housing, it's not adequate. So this person wasn't really homeless, but there were issues why he couldn't go back home. So he was kind of in that category that we still have to take care of too. So it's more than just homeless people. So,
Yeah, no, I understand, yeah. There's a lot of coordination with other resources to work with.
Okay, well, is Takara still here?
yeah,
Welcome.
she's way in the back, she's back.
Welcome
Hi,
back.
Bob. Just trying to catch up on emails, projects, and the statuses. And then as well as continuing to organize a visit to Orchard.
That was my next question, is where we stand on that.
I have received most of the people's availability as far as who's going down during the site visit. We'll probably go in anywhere from 1 to 3 groups, depending on how well their facility can accommodate us. And after that, then we'll come back and.
So who all is planning on attending?
IT, informatics, financial, care coordination, health information management, nursing,
You said
doctors.
Dr. Mellon, Dr. Ware.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So for that reason, we may actually have three visits as opposed to when we started, we were gonna initially plan.
Right. Do you think this can be done by the next meeting?
I'm hoping to get it done in the next 2 weeks with the exception of Dr. Nolan's schedule if their facility can accommodate us.
Okay, so we could tentatively put it on the agenda for next month?
I don't know that you need to agendize it, I would give it in my departmental report.
Okay.
And then John Halvey at Orchard also talked about doing some reverse demonstrations, or not demonstrations, because it's a reverse, Jacob helped me here, where you can actually get into their computer system from here and, look at what they're doing and actually have hands-on to their system. So that's available to our staff as well. Did I explain that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. IT update, do you have anything additional to add, Jacob?
We had a very successful install of the new phone system over the weekend. We spent the last few days ironing out a few of the bugs. I've got a list of places that we want to add additional phones, which we can definitely accommodate that. And yeah, it went really well. When you call in now, if you call your provider's main numbers, nothing will change. If you call the walk-in clinic, you'll get to an automated system that will allow you to pick up, there's 8 different options that can direct you to patient financial services, telehealth services, things like that. And also at the hospital, it's a little bit different now too. There's better routing for phone calls, so if you're new to the area and you just call the hospital number and you want information about radiology services or things like that, there's actually an option there that you can dial directly to them. And essentially, I'm estimating about 2 more weeks before we'll sign off on the project, and then your financial statements will start looking much better.
I did wanted to add that there is some spam going around in your emails, so be really careful about the emails that you're receiving, because they're coming from board member names. They got your names, and so take a look on that
Same
one.
as we've been talking about month after month here, they're just continuing. And the biggest issue is the fact that all of your bases are up front on our website, all of your contact information is there. So these predators, this is what they do, they're getting really good at it. So we're taking every initiative we can, but just be very diligent about looking at the return email addresses and things like that. My next quarter's security awareness is going to start in April, and I'm going to ask that everybody in the board also kind of take part in that. It's only about 45 minutes of one of your days, something very simple in the evening. But it's more to just keep you on point about the little things. I mean, they're getting so good that there's only 1 letter difference between Microsoft. The F and the T will be misplaced. And that's the only difference in the entire email. And if you don't recognize that, you can get into that trap. And with with all of your personal contact emails out there, what they're doing is they're putting your name and your email address, but then the actual email address that it comes from is a Gmail address in some other country. And what they're hoping is that you'll respond to that email, that you'll issue a check for them, or I have a vendor, like the newest one came directly for Rich, and Rich was requesting that we pay a vendor. Please get a hold of me and I'll send you all the information.
Do you know that, Rich?
I'd like to tell everybody that my grandchildren don't need you to send the Visa cards for their tuition in college.
Yeah.
So, and the other point to this is part of, again, you're going to hear a lot that Sadie and I got at compliance, is that the board, as far as Medicare and compliance, the board is required to do some of this security training as well as the physicians. That is one area we were a little lacking in, so we will make sure that the training is available to both the physicians and the board.
One quick question about the telephones. We had talked about maybe looking to see if there was a way to do auto appointment reminders. Have we had a chance to look at that?
Yes, and I'm working with Frontier right now. They're going to send me a quote on that. What they have readily available is essentially it's just a little cloud-based system that when you're finished with your visit, and you make your next appointment, your receptionist can just open up a web page, and they can put your name, date, and cell phone number in it, and it will send you a text message the day before.
You'd have to manually enter that though.
Yes, those are, we haven't crossed into the integrated part of that yet,
That's
because
what I was wondering.
if we integrate the whole system, you know, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. I don't know if it's capable through that. From what Frontier tells me, most of the facilities that use the product that they're talking about, each individual doctor's office, their receptionist, puts that in. They have it open in the background, and then when they write your name in the book, they just type it in there too, and it generates that. But they do have some more advanced systems that will actually give you an automated phone call and things like that also. The text message one, I believe, is free. It's just a cloud-based system they connect to us. And that's why it's all manual, that's why it's all, you know, kind of labor intensive, because it's like a free service.
You probably have to have them opt in also, right?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of things we'll have to ask, you know, your patients. And then if you have patients that, you know, don't have cell phones and things like that, then, you know, we'll have to look at other avenues to allow them to get, you know, the same courtesy phone call on their house phone. One thing I do want to throw out there for everybody and the public is that when you get phone calls now from this facility, if you get a phone call from anywhere in the clinic building, it is going to come across your phones as 258-2826. It all comes out of, there's only one outbound phone number anymore. So when, say, Marion from Dr. Wall's office calls you about your appointment, it's not going to be the phone number that is pre-programmed into your cell phones anymore. And the same applies over at the hospital. If anybody from the hospital is calling you, for example, if Dave in X-ray is calling you about an appointment, it's not going to come across as his old phone number that you may have programmed into your phone. It's going to be the hospital general number of 258-2151.
And maybe Lindsay, yeah.
That's my next one to go on.
So when you call them by the number that you've always called them?
They will answer the phone,
Okay.
just like they always have.
Is it just gonna be the number, or is there gonna be a little announcement that says, you know, my phone at home says who's calling me?
Caller ID. It should, he's
Yeah,
one of the
caller
caller
ID.
ID. So is that,
It should still have that. It should
Still have that?
Yeah, but it's only gonna, like, the caller ID won't say Dr. Wall's office.
Right, but it says.
It'll just say Lake Hamlin Clinic.
oh, the camera thing.
Yeah.
But it depends on from, if you're calling from over
From
here
this building or
or
that
calling
building.
from that building.
If you call you from that building, it's gonna, they'll have Seneca District Hospital or however, the way it is labeled in the phone book. How's that?
If it came from inside, if it comes from inside, you'll see on the form, it'll tell you who it's coming from.
Yeah.
And then there's these little sub numbers too, you have to know.
Yeah, everybody's got new extensions and things like that, so. But as far as the general public and everybody else goes, whatever phone numbers you have pre-programmed still work. Every phone number in the phone book still works and gets you exactly to where it says it's communications. Okay?
Jacob, I wasn't here for the last meeting, so I'm not sure when you say integration, what all that entails, but I just wanted to clarify, because I just received an update today. Despite our repeated annual requests of Evident for the appointment reminders, we can't integrate with Evident because they don't have that capability. So we're gonna have to use that third-party vendor. We do ask them repeatedly, it's not a service available.
Through Frontier.
I've got a quick question for you
Yes.
too. And I may not be talking to the right person, but because you're a big team, you're gonna let the right people know. What reminded me was the automated call comment. We've got the follow-up calls from the hospital. When you come in for an appointment, you get a follow-up call
Mhm.
to rate the hospital, rate your, you know, your appointment. You might want to check some of the questions, because when I went to see Dr. Walls, my follow-up call was like, well, only one of those even had anything to do with my appointment. And then we had this same thing, because Leslie was over here twice the next week, got the follow-up calls, and she goes, what do I put on there? It's irrelevant. I mean, so you might, I don't know if there's a way to say some, you know, maybe just a preface that some of these may not be applicable to your visit, but please answer the one, I don't know. You know, I don't know how you're gonna fix it, but some of them, it kind of leaves you like, how do I answer that question?
Yeah, or we might be able to give you an option of, you know, does not apply
Yeah,
to
does
my,
not apply,
or
yeah.
to my visit.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
We'll
something that happened to
definitely
me
do
too
that.
this month, is I saw 2 physicians at this hospital. I got mine and they didn't reference who it was, so I didn't know who, they were both good, but I didn't know which one I was, a person on the outside might not know which is it, you know, like.
So that's something that Ashley
we
and
need to-
Casey.
Right, and I did mention it to them to look into. And Jerry, I was gonna say, I had an outside visit, in Reno, and I asked them, I was curious as to how they do their callback. So I said, she was asking me what my email address was, do you mind if you texted? And I said, sure. And so I said, how do you do that? She has to open up a program, she has to put the actual visit in there, and then it automatically does it, but it's a whole different program. Right, so I was curious, because this is a big facility that I was in, and that's the way they do it, yeah.
Well, they have an automatic calling system from the Western Clinic. I know even here locally, the dentist does.
Yeah, and they did it too at, Northeastern, when I was there for a visit too, they put it in there and it's automatic. But I think they're physically putting it in.
Yeah, they're adding that information when they schedule your appointment.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along here now, Lindsay, do you have a report?
I do. So circling back to what Steve told y'all, I'm working with Sarah Lynn to pull all of the correct forms for the financial assistance and the charity care. So we're working on really building out that patients tab of the billing responsibilities, or what I call it, financial responsibilities, and it has other pieces in there too, like the upfront billing and HIM, there's the charge master, and all that kind of stuff is on that tab.
Sorry, before I forget,
Yeah.
along those lines, in the HRG summary, it said something about there being a new tool available for people to estimate their net profits. So I don't know if we'll ever reference that maybe there.
Yeah, it is, that's what we have, right? Yeah, it is on that site already, or on that page. In line with the website, our new website has been up for about a year, and we pulled all the information off of the old one, we created this cute new little one. As we get further out and I start adding things and new pages and this and that, I just start hitting new glitches. So don't be surprised if you go to the website and you hey, this looks a little different. I'm trying to really optimize the space in the pages to keep it as few as possible so that we don't have hundreds of pages that people have to push and try to find. So, I'll be testing some different pages to see what works and what doesn't, what loads best, what doesn't load best. Now that it was great when we turned it on, now it's time to take that second trip around the block to try to just optimize the best.
I think you're doing a great job of it. It's a lot better than it used to be.
It's my baby. The KTVN Channel 4 display ads that I talked to you guys about last time, they have gone live. I talked to Chris, our account manager at KTVN. They're pleased with the preliminary numbers. They will send me, after it's live for at least 4 weeks, they'll send me the report so I can see how they're doing, and of course we'll see if we start getting some applications or some hits on that web page. But they were pleased with that. So in a couple weeks I expect to get a report from them.
Do we have a way of tracking whether those turn into applications?
I'm gonna have to work with him on figuring that out. I am currently trying to set up a Google Analytics account so that I can put tracking codes on different websites or different pages within our website to track different visits and views and clicks and et cetera.
I'm thinking right even when Jim gets an application.
Yeah. I've thought about creating a separate landing page so that they link to a different page and then what they send us, we know where it came from. Yeah.
So, leaning on one of the thoughts that I'm trying to telepathically get to the hat, when those physician recruiters call us, that's a question we need to be asking those recruiters to ask those people. Because, you know, all of a sudden, we have 3 new that dropped into our hat this last week, and we've not seen anybody for a long time.
Yeah,
So,
exactly
that
what I was
position. So we need to make sure we ask them.
So, that would be lovely if that came
If
out
that,
there.
exactly.
They show up on LinkedIn too.
Okay, yeah,
That's another,
that's the other one I'm
that
behind
they're
the scenes
searching
working
you.
on.
And you're like, why? Why are you searching me?
That is why. Last, I have a chamber update, just a few, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, I think. Our chamber golf tournament will be Saturday, May 18th at Bailey Creek Golf Course. Sponsorships and memberships will begin selling soon, weather pending. Ronnie assures me that they will be open by May 18th. However, they're under 2 feet of
We
snow.
can't control the weather.
He can't control the weather, he says it'll be fine, but slightly tentative. The chamber will also be hosting a membership dinner. That date is to be determined, that was voted for May 18th, however, we realized that that was the golf tournament, so we're moving it. An exciting piece for the chamber, they're hiring an executive director to assist and support the board with helping with these events, member retention, events and support, member outreach, membership management, etc., to help kind of take the weight off of our board of directors. They're proposing a 26-hour a week for 6 months, our busy time, to help. And then last board meeting, I talked about the town talk that was coming up on March 8th. That was at St. Andrew's Academy. It was a huge success. It had a really good turnout. So we're going to work to create our next one. We're just going to keep those going annually and monthly and quarterly, depending on how well they go. But now that we call those meetings our town talk, so people kind of see the branding on it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have a report from Jim? I think it's already in
He's
here.
in budget. And I don't think he gave us anything more that he wanted us to speak for.
Okay. Then there's nothing on the consent agenda. Agenda items for next month's meeting. Michael, do you have anything for our commission?
Well, I have the bylaws, the incentive, the facility supplemental, the orchard visit won't be actually on the agenda. Is the HRG contract, is that supposed to go on for approval? or
Yep,
just-
it's on there.
Okay, yeah, what did you want, the remodel OT thing?
Probably upstairs, running to the model.
And,
But that can be a part of your report.
Yeah.
it can be, but it can be listed on here under the board, so.
That's all I have.
Okay, then we'll adjourn for a closed session. Yes. Rich?
For signature and.
It's like a
So can we watch this live on the internet?
like spider